The personality trait that led to your success may very well be the one that's leading to your burnout. Today, we're talking about people pleasing. My name is Eric Osborne. I have worked with over 2,000 people professionally in psychedelic space holding, psychedelic wellness, psychedelic spirituality, and one of the most common, I want to say ailments, I want to say life conditions, I want to say trauma responses, because that's actually what it is that I have witnessed over the years, is people pleasing. I also have perpetuated it in my own life. It is very difficult to be aware, and sometimes it's very difficult to change, but you can do it. If I can, I know you can. I've seen hundreds of others. Today, I want to talk about the subject in a way that hopefully disarms it a little bit, helps you see that it's not your fault, but that you have power to change it, to become the person that you know you're meant to be, and live that most authentic and fulfilling life. That's what I want for you. That's what I want for me. Now, this video, we're just going to talk about the issue, and in the next one that comes out in a few days, we're going to talk about some of the solutions. These will be short videos, so do watch them all the way through. There'll be quite a bit of valuable information. I'm going to start out just by identifying the characteristics of people pleasing. You may not be aware of it. And then I'm going to share with you some personal stories of my own and some of those that I've worked with. You can probably identify with those. All right, so let's get to it. People pleasing, like I said, it's actually a trauma response. This is not just you being a insecure or having bad boundaries or not knowing how to say no. I mean, those are definitely symptoms, but that's not what really is behind it. What lies behind fawning or people pleasing is probably some childhood trauma. Yes, we all have it. We all tried to please our parents for good reason. Many of us grew up in a society where the punishments were severe if we did not obey or if we did not meet the very often unreasonable standards. Hopefully, as parents, we heal and can provide better for our children so that they don't have quite as much, although they will have their own stuff to recover from. And people pleasing shows up in our lives, not in the behaviors that we do for others, but in the way that we feel about others. This is how we often first come to realize, oh, wow, I'm not living for myself. I'm living fully for others. And that is resentment. The first feeling, the first indicator that we have been living for others is that we become resentful. Sometimes we don't even know why. We just feel ourselves not wanting to go be in an environment or be around people and just feeling like this kind of ickiness about them, because there's a part of us that knows that they're going to ask something of us that we really don't want to give, but we probably haven't developed the skills, the boundaries, the self-awareness yet to say no. Another way that it shows up is an eroded sense of identity or inauthenticity. Now, authenticity is an interesting word. It's like sincerity, right? It's not something that we can clearly define, but it's something that we can definitely feel. You don't know you're being authentic by the things that you're doing. You know you're being authentic about how, in the way that you feel about the things that you're doing. So when your yes is a yes, you feel that in your body. When your no is a no, you feel that in your body. And when we're not being true to ourselves, we feel this internal tension, friction, resistance. Most of us just shove that down, just pretend like it's not there. I'm going to do the thing that the other person wants me to do. And now there are absolutely times in our lives when we just have to do the thing that's uncomfortable. But who is it serving? That is the big question here. If you're doing something that's uncomfortable so that you can grow and expand, or so that you can truly be of service, to the world, then it's worth considering for sure. Sometimes, even still, though, we can push ourselves too far. We can make excuses for why how we're showing up and being of service in the world. That only I can do this, or the world needs this, my family needs me. And that may very well be true, but how bad do they really need you? These are questions that only you can answer, but I'm inviting you to explore in your life where this shows up. The next place we find ourselves becoming aware of our tendencies towards people pleasing is when we look around and we see that not only are we not being authentic, but our relationships aren't. Our relationships are inauthentic. People come to us when they have a need and they're not there to return the favor. People lean on us to help solve their problems, and then when we need to share a moment, they're gone. This showed up for me during my arrest. For years, I grew beautiful, abundant, sacred mushrooms, and I gave them to so many people. One friend in particular who had a number of challenges that he wanted to work through using these mushrooms. I gladly gave them to him. And when I was arrested for said mushrooms, he was the first person that I called from incarceration, and he hung up on me 10 times. That should have been my wake-up call that I was living a life of people-pleasing, and it wasn't. These patterns are so difficult to identify, and they're even more difficult to escape from. The next indicator, whether we are in people-pleasing mode, is if we find ourselves in a loop of unhealthy romantic relationships. We meet someone, we do everything we can to be liked by them, to help them feel good about themselves. We go out of our way to please them. And eventually, it gives out. We can't keep up the pace. And then the expectations that we have built begin to come crashing down on our heads. The relationships dissolve, usually not in an amicable manner. And rather than recognizing the pattern, we often blame it on the other person, project our responsibility into the world outside of us, and go and do the same thing again. I'm speaking to this from experience, and I'm speaking to this as your friend, because I don't want this to continue in your life. I don't want to be the person that is expecting others to please me. This is a pattern I've also experienced in my life. I have been the people pleaser, and I have been the one expecting to be pleased. Oh, it can be such a challenging loop to get out of. In terms of our success, let's call it that, business success, social success, when we're trying to climb the ladder and change the world, we have to really evaluate what's the motivation. For me, I started the world's first sacred mushroom or psilocybin wellness retreat in Treasure Beach, Jamaica. Now, ostensibly, I did it because I wanted to help the world, and that's 100% true. However, as time went on and I found myself growing resentful for being misrepresented in media, resentful for not feeling appreciated by my family, I came to understand that the real reason I did this work, what really motivated me to do something that no one else had done, was seeking validation from my parents. I always wanted my parents to just be proud of me. I wanted them to see that I would do the difficult thing. This was a trauma response. I can look back into my childhood and see instances where I first started to exhibit this behavior. I am not blaming them. They were outcomes of their own environment and familiar relationships. All I can do is take responsibility for myself, and that's really all that you can do as well. Thank goodness for the mushrooms that helped me become aware of this, which is what the psychedelic work is all about. It is about increasing our awareness. Yes, these compounds literally expand our consciousness. They can help us see ourselves from a third person point of view. We can identify our problems and become our own problem solvers. So much of our society is looking for an outside solution, is looking for someone else to come and be the savior. My friends, it is all within you. My salvation is within me. Now, that doesn't mean we don't need outside help, but we do not need more enablers. So I want you to ask yourself, when you are seeking assistance, are you going to people who are going to enable your current behavior? I think it's worth asking even within the world of therapy. Now, I know that there are incredible therapists out there that want to see their clients graduate beyond them. And there is also a medical industrial complex that desires to see return customers. That's not what we're working with here. I want to see you learn yourself, understand yourself, empower yourself to become the most authentic version of yourself. Where this gets really difficult is within our long-term, especially romantic relationships. I had a individual contact me. Well, here's how it went down. So, in case you don't know, after leaving the wellness retreat, because I, for one, was burning out beyond my human capacity, and for two, I really desired to establish an accessible model with a spiritual foundation that did not require individuals to travel around the world and spend thousands of dollars for something that they could do in the comfort of their own home. So, leveraging the United States Constitution, my wife and I founded Sanctuary, a sacred mushroom church. I won't get into that, but if you're interested, you can check out the link in my bio or visit sanctuary.org. That's sanctuary with a P. We had an individual sign up for our membership a few weeks back and was very excited about it. Finally had found the community for him. About 2 weeks later, he emailed and said, well, my wife is pissed and it's either leave the church or get a divorce. And I'm not going to get a divorce over this. Well, that is understandable, but the question arises for me, should the divorce have come a long time ago? Now, there are any number of reasons that someone would disagree with their loved one's behavior, but it takes a very, very little bit of research to see how powerfully effective and safe psilocybin can be when used in an informed, intentional manner. And that is entirely what Sanctuary is about. Over the years, I have seen so many of my friends tuck their tail to please their spouses. And this is men and women alike. I have done it. My wife has done it. But the difference is, once we wake up to it, we have to decide if we're going to continue living in that pattern. And that's up to everyone. I am not here to say that someone should get a divorce. But I am here to ask you, are you living the most authentic, the truest life that you came here to live? If not, what do you think it's going to feel like on your deathbed? Now, I've also worked with dozens of individuals at the end of their lives, consuming psilocybin as a way to prepare for their transition, to process their backlog of trauma and pain. It is some of the most meaningful and powerful work that I've ever done. And I can tell you right now that it is going to be very important that you look back on your life and recognize that you lived it for you. Now, this does not mean we live lives of selfishness, and there is a razor's edge balance here to maintain, and only you can recognize what that balance is in your life. The greatest leader is a servant, but are they subservient? I don't think so. In the next video, we're going to talk about some of the ways to move out of this patterned behavior. That's all that it is. You can get out of it. So I hope you'll join me there. If you've enjoyed this video, then please leave a comment. Share some of your experiences with people pleasing. That awareness and acknowledgement, I'll give you a sneak peek, is going to be one of the first components of recovery. Thank you for joining me as always.